Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another edition of Snack Bites. Sorry for the lack of updates lately. We've been traveling a little bit. We're actually in downtown Chicago right now, but had to find some time to do a video on this last episode of Fear the Walking Dead because it was quite a shocker. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen what's happened so far. Nick died randomly, like without any warning whatsoever. Um, I gotta say, I did not see this coming at all. I mean, like, normally when something like this happens in the universe, there's like, leaks and stuff and rumors floating around for a while. I didn't hear anything about this. I didn't see anybody talking about it, and it just happened, like at the end of the episode, and it was very misleading because I kind of thought that the way that they were setting it up was that Morgan was going to kind of pass on the wisdom of like finding inner peace that Eastman gave him back in season 6 onto Nick. I thought that was, he was gonna like do for Nick what Eastman was able to do for him. And then the show was like, nope, JK, LOL, boom, dead.
Here's, I, as shocked as I was, I didn't think, Frank Dillane was going anywhere, but apparently the actor was very, let's say, displeased with I guess, the direction of the show. They changed showrunners and writers, and there's new cast members and, top billing cast members, quite frankly. And he requested to go back in season 3, and they asked him to stick around a little bit longer till season 4. So we'll still see some Nick in flashback. But I honestly have to say that while shocking and like I'm still like, and I didn't hate Nick. I really wanted Alicia to go, if anybody. But I think his death was very well done. One, we didn't know was coming, which made a more impactful moment. Number one. Number two, the death made absolute sense. They introduced this devil child, Charlie. I knew she was a bad seed, and then the bad seed went on, her shooting spree and shot Nick after he killed the guy who saved her. And he's shot and he chokes on his own blood. They try to save him and then they can't. And basically, half of the episode was a flashback to him and his mom, right? And I think, obviously I can't not talk about this and not talk about Carl because I think they did this the wrong way too in season 6 when Carl was shot in the eye. They did it a little bit backwards. I think it would have been a greater moment had we seen him die right away instead of dragging it out. Like that's kind of the problem with The Walking Dead. They pause and then they linger, and it's like it's more impactful if you just allow it to happen. And then the follow-up can be a flashback as to what was done that last day or what led up to that or whatever. Like imagine where we didn't know Carl had run into Sadiq at all. We didn't know he'd been in the woods. We just see it mostly from Rick and Michonne's perspective, and it's like, what the fuck? He's sick. Who the hell is that guy over there? And then he's dead. Then he's gone. He passes away. How that would have been a more impactful moment. Now, so going back to Nick, what was also interesting about his death is that on the one hand, in his back pocket, he's got Morgan's, what's it called?
Oh, the book, The Art of Peace, that Eastman gave him.
And then in the other pocket, he's got these bluebell flowers that his mother pointed out to him about showing the beauty in the world. Showing him the beauty in the world, and he's literally looking at the flowers when he's shot. Yeah. And he's holding it in his hand as he dies. Mm-hmm. So I think
no way that was a coincidence.
They didn't, hit the pause button. Will Nick survive or not survive? No. We'll see next week.
Yeah, he's dead.
They just let him die, and then the last shot is of him laying in the field of flowers. Yeah. With on the run with his mom. And I thought that was, if there was ever to be a send-off for a character, if there was ever a proper way to kill a character, that was it.
Yeah. It was a good death.
It was a great death. It made sense. I still felt cheated with Carl's death. Like him getting bit by that walker like that just seemed sloppy.
I didn't hate the logic behind that much.
Not that he got bitten. How he got bit. It seems sloppy for someone like him who's too seasoned. Like if this was season 4, Carl, and he got bit, which is what I thought they were going to do. Okay, but season 8, Carl would have known better. That was just a sloppy way to go about it. But I think that, you know, while it's unfortunate Frank Dillane felt dissatisfied with the show, you know, he wasn't on Talking Dead either. Maybe he'll be on a later date. I don't think so.
Yeah.
But
That's actually the thing. The only thing about this that sort of bugs me is that like it seems pretty obvious, like on the outside of the show, side of things, that Frank Dillane was like not very happy about like what was going on. I mean, he asked. I mean, he said specifically in like two different articles and an interview that he specifically requested to be written off of a show. I don't think you request to be written off of a show unless you really don't like what's going on.
Well, what was so awkward was that when they showed the clip, so they had the two new writers on the showrunners on the couch, and Denai Garcia, his co-star, and Frank Dillane literally says in this interview, you know, to the original cast members,
Oh,
Kim,
man.
Coleman, and Alicia, they taught me so much. Like he excluded everyone else from the equation. Like the shade was so heavy you could cover a family of 10 with it. You know,
you could tell too that like those two the new executive producers who are on Talking Dead, their names escape me. I'll put them up on the screen right here, but you could tell that they were like really worried that they were going to get blamed for this, because literally the first thing that they said in the entire episode Talking Dead was, it wasn't our idea. Nick asked to be killed off. Like, don't kill the messenger, right? Like, that was their attitude. You could tell that they just, like, were expecting the onslaught of hate on Twitter.
Well, I mean, it just makes me wonder, how long was Frank Dillane's contract for, and how was he able to get out of it so easily? Like, did, what's the name leaving for Avatar set a precedent for breaking contract, or how does that work?
They only usually do, like, a year at a time.
No, that's not true. Usually it's 7 years for a series, and especially a spin-off show. I would have said at least 5.
You know, I kind of understand though, like why he would be a little bit upset, because you know, you got to remember when all of the material was written for season 3, you can tell that they completely did an entire overhaul, and it just like wiped the slate clean and wrote all new everything, because they probably originally were planning on picking up right where the end of season 3 left off, with them like in the river and showing how they survived. But somehow during that time, you know, they obviously came up with the idea of the crossover and all these things in an effort to save the show. And so I would imagine that Frank Dillane probably expected to have a more prominent role in the show going forward. And then all of a sudden, the showrunner and both executive producers and main writers all leave at the same time. It's like, you can relate to that. Like, it's like being at a job where you have a favorite boss for like 3 years, and then all of a sudden that boss leaves and you have like a new guy who you don't have that same rapport with. It's
weird. It was more the actor rotation in addition. Morgan
comes over. He probably felt overshadowed by Lenny a little bit.
It wasn't just even Lenny James, but the other two. That they weren't introduced as side characters. They were introduced as main characters.
Yeah.
They weren't like, you know, Taka or I can't even think of who those other people were. Those were co-stars. These are introduced as stars, and I think Frank Dillane did not take kindly to that.
And they framed the original characters as bad guys at the end of that first episode. It was kind of clear the way that they structured that episode that the main focus was going to be on John and Morgan. And so, you know,
Morgan.
What's that?
John Morgan.
John and Morgan.
Oh, I mean Morgan and John.
Whatever.
Let's keep it real.
And so, yeah, you know, I can see how if you were on a show for 3 years as a main character, and then all of a sudden they do something like that with the season premiere, where like he's expecting that they show how his character lives. Instead, it's just like, that's a side thought that he even like got out of that dam. I can see how you'd be upset about that.
I don't know, not necessarily so upset that I'd let go of that regular paycheck.
Yeah, well, and it was. I also thought it was weird that he wasn't on Talking Dead. I mean, that's just like, it's a tradition. You get killed off on one of these shows, you're on Talking Dead. I mean, I can't think of another time when a main character got killed off and they weren't on Talking Dead afterwards.
I just think Frank was like, I'm done now.
Yeah.
I'm back home. I'm in England or wherever he is, and that's it for me, guys.
So it is kind of unfortunate that that's the way that it ended. I mean, I thought they did a good job getting rid of his character. At least they didn't give him like a stupid death.
It was the most efficient death I've seen in a super long time.
And it's going to help the story too, because I mean, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how this affects Morgan, because Morgan was trying really, really hard to save Nick, and it didn't work. So I'm sure this is going to affect him deeply as well. Um,
Well, I don't think it'll affect him deeply. I think it'll affect him, but he had no emotional attachments to Nick. He just met him. It's the same day. Almost. Yeah, it's the same
yeah,
day.
but I think that Nick is kind of like the first person that Morgan tried to save. The way that Eastman tried to save him, you know, I mean, he gave him like that speech, and he like spent all that time talking to him, and
All it does is prove Morgan's point about letting stuff go, and he's gonna use Nick as the example. He's gonna tell Madison, "Look, I told your son he's got my book in his pocket right now. If he went after that guy, it would end badly for him. But then he went after that guy, and now he's dead. So,
yeah,
and she'll be like, "What?" And he'll be like, I don't mean to say I told you so, or I told him so. And well, now he's dead, so you should just listen to me.
yeah,
And then they'll commiserate over losing their sons, etc., etc.
yeah. Um, the only other thing in this episode that I just wanted to briefly touch on was like this moment between John and Luciana, where he asked her, I don't remember the exact wording of it, but he pulled her aside and asked her, you know, when you left your man, was it because you didn't love him? And it was like this sad kind of a moment where you realize that like the reason why he's asking is because he wonders whether or not this woman that he was in love with left him because she didn't love him. And that's going to be probably like the main driving factor for this character, because it started off with him talking about the matching pistol that he gave her, and now he's talking about this. I hope there's some backstory or maybe a flashback of what exactly happened between those two. But they're putting a heavy influence on that part in terms of his character, and it's interesting.
Just one other thing to that. I like how the show made it appear as if Luciana was going to be the one to die. To kept giving these hints about her leaving and not coming back,
Mm-hmm.
especially with Nick. I was like, oh yeah, they're totally going to kill her. And then they totally did not.
Yeah, they did a really good job misdirecting and like just totally surprising us. I had no idea that was coming. So, well done, writers. Anything more about this episode?
So, so long, Nick.
So long, Nick. And you know, congrats to Frank Dillane. I thought you did a great job on the show. If you guys like our content, make sure to subscribe right up here in the corner. Also, go ahead and follow us at all of our channels right here on the screen, and also check out the blog, thelivingroshone.com. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.